Yeah.
Yeah, like I said,
I
those are
mean,
the interactions
traveling's
that,
yeah,
yeah,
traveling's important. I mean,
yeah.
it's important to me. I hope it's important to
Yes.
everybody.
I
I,
really do hope it's important to everybody. I think that's the goal, right? That's the goal, to
yep.
not being so angry because you're more understanding.
Yes.
That's the goal, to living in the moment so you could be patient.
Yes.
That's the goal, to broadening like your horizons and like your
Getting out of your
mind.
comfort zone a little bit. Yep.
I was like hearing, if you learn another language, you have more ways to express yourself, which was
Yes.
interesting because on first thought, I'm like, oh, but doesn't that kind of like hinder you? Because you're kind of like, oh, but other languages have words for things we don't have words for.
That's it.
And then, we can like describe like a feeling or like an emotion. Like, I never asked in Finland if this was true, but like maybe 2 years before I ever even thought about Finland,
Yeah.
there was this post going around that was like, everyone says like boyfriend and girlfriend, and in Finland it's like the person that I hate the least. And I just thought that
Oh,
was
no
really
way.
funny. Yeah, and then it came back up in my memory, and I'm like, I should have asked someone,
That's
but
so
like,
good.
but
Like, that's so
yeah,
I don't know, there's something about that. Like, for
yeah,
me, I'm, like, picturing, because I'm from Canada, so I'm thinking about the winter time when you're just
yeah,
kinda grumpy because it's too cold
yeah,
outside,
yeah,
but you're with this person, and this
yeah,
person is the person you hate the least because they give
yeah,
you warmth in the winter.
yeah.
I
You're
feel like
like,
that's kinda
let's
like
go.
I'm generalizing on Finland there, but I
Yeah.
do appreciate if that's true, I do appreciate it.
Yeah, Finland is a good place for introverts.
Yeah, so I've
Um,
heard.
yeah, like, because
Yeah.
people aren't gonna like speak to you. They'll look at you, but they're not
Yeah.
gonna be like hi. And
Yeah.
like even I would say hi, and they'd be like, mm-mm.
What are you
Like,
yeah.
they'd be like, wait.
That's not the
Um,
script. What are
yeah,
you
and I
doing?
wore my neighbors down because then they started talking to me because they knew that I was gonna say hi. Like I was like, it's coming. You guys will participate.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so I would just be like, hi, and they would be like, and I would just be like, "Hi," more enthusiastic the next time, and then they'd be like, "Oh, hi."
Yeah, yeah,
And especially if I had my dog, she's just a great social tool, and
yeah.
she's very friendly, and so they were more very like, receptive to her being
Oh,
friendly. But if I
animals are
started
the
rubbing on
best.
their leg, call the
Yeah.
cops,
Yeah.
no, but so she was really helpful. But they will
That's
talk
great.
to you though. I've never met a Finnish person who didn't want to talk to me. Like, and I had a racist neighbor,
Yeah.
and at
Yeah.
first he had a Confederate flag and everything.
Oh
And
god.
like
Yeah.
he didn't want to pet my dog, but he was outside petting the neighbor's dogs, and I was like, it's okay. I
Mm.
was like, we'll just come by
Okay.
again, and I would just keep speaking to him because like when I first saw him by like himself, I was
Yeah.
like, hi, and I was like, oh, let me do it and finish next time because I do have that habit of just being like hi instead of being like moi. So
Yes.
then I would just be like moi. Moi, and like he really wouldn't talk to me until like the last couple of times,
Yep.
and then he started like petting my dog because she's like, "What's wrong with you? You got hands, use them." Like, she wants to be
Yeah,
petted.
she doesn't
Like,
yeah, she has no concept. She's like,
she
"You are
does not
human.
discriminate. She's
What's
like,
wrong with you?"
she didn't
Yeah.
even care if you had a stub. She'd be like, "That thing that you have, rub it on me. Yeah, just go ahead." Um, so yeah, I would just say hi and not lose myself in that manner because it could have been really easy for me to be like, nobody wants to talk, and yeah,
Yeah.
and like not even try.
I
But I've
mean,
never met someone who didn't want a hi.
yes. Yes. I think that's actually a really one impressive because I think I'm a little more timid than that. So I'm not sure if I would be as persistent as
But
you.
guess what? Your timidness would still be an extroverted to them.
Yeah, I bet. I
Yeah,
bet.
yeah.
I bet.
So
But in
they would be
particular,
like,
like,
"Oh,
when someone is very clearly not interested in talking to you,
yeah, yeah,
how it's you just kind of ray of sunshine it, right? Like you're just like, no, you know what? I'm gonna get you to smile back at me one day. Like
yeah,
how do
yeah." I
you?
don't know if I'm ever that determined, but they're my neighbors, and for my dog's sake, I gotta speak to you because she's gonna
Yeah,
want to talk to you,
yeah.
you
She'll
know.
be
But
sad if not. Yeah,
yeah, she'll be really sad, and I also don't want to see you every day and not speak to you because if what if I need something, right? And
that's
now I
true.
have to break the ice, say hello all in that one sentence. And they don't really care about that, right? Like they don't care about niceties. Like
Yeah,
I learned not to say how are you, but to say I hope you're doing well.
Yeah,
Because if you
yes.
say how are you,
That
in
could be
North America,
overwhelming.
they do have a tendency to be like, I'm fine, like just go
Yeah.
with it, because at some point people weren't answering me. Like when I would go into place, I'd be like, how are you? And they'd be like, how can I help you? And I was like, oh.
This is actually kind of interesting. I think there's a mix of this in Canada. I don't know how true this
Mhm.
is. Maybe some Canadians listening to this are going to be like, "What are you talking about, Maria?" But
We've never done that before.
yeah, I've never done that in my life. But I feel
Yeah.
like when you do ask a Canadian, "How are you?" you can get that normal, like quintessential North American, "I'm fine, I'm good, how are you?" But you can also get a real answer, and I think there's like
Yeah.
flexibility there. And so like
Yeah.
I'm fine. If I ask you how are you in Finland, I'll expect the next hour to be
And they
we
will.
can get
And
into it.
and
It's
yeah,
okay.
and they will. They will be like, "Oh, and this and that." And then you're like, "Oh, okay. Well, hope it gets better." Like at the
Yeah,
end of the
yeah,
day, like
yeah.
that's what I'm gonna say. So they were definitely like, "Yeah, you're not supposed to ask that." And I was like, "I didn't know."
Well,
I was trying to be like
I
polite,
still
but their
I still
version
might
of,
ask it. Yeah.
yeah, do it because you
I still
never
might ask it.
know.
Yeah.
But their version of polite is just kind of staying out the way, right? Like anytime I got on the bus, I'd immediately get off the phone. I was like, I'm not going to be in these people country acting up because that's their version of acting up, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
I rode a bus, and for the first time, there's this girl. She was in the back. She was talking loud. It wasn't bothering me, but
Yeah.
the lady, I didn't know what that lady said, but she cussed her out.
Oh my
I did
god.
not understand one word of finish, but I
Yeah.
know she was like, "And you're being rude, and this is a pub." Like I just knew what she was saying because she was on the phone and she was just
Yeah.
talking, and she was being a bit louder. But when I tell you, public transportation is like silent,
I think
like
Canada
silent.
and the US differs in that. I think if you go on a
Yeah.
Canadian bus, it's going to be a lot quieter than you might expect in America.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
there's something there. I
I
don't
think
know.
the bus is quiet in the morning. Like you get like a little bit of
Well, that's
time in the
just human
morning.
nature. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're right. You're right. Where all the other old people are
How
going to
many people have
malls
had
and they're
their
just,
coffee yet? Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So that's like the sliver of time. And then for the rest of the day, it's turn up city. Like don't let the kids be going to school. They're super amped. Um, but yeah, I
You'll
could
get
sit
that on
here
the
and talk about Finland all day.
Yeah, yeah. Same, clearly same. I'm
Yeah,
so fascinated by this.
yeah, it's interesting because like I never shy away from questions, but I've been on one podcast to talk about like my Finnish experience, but now that I'm
Yes.
back, I have like so much to say. So I'm
Yes.
just going to have to break that up over the next couple of episodes because I feel like it's already been about 15, 20
I
minutes now.
think you should. Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
haven't talking about it, but yes, I will end up doing an expose at some point. But Maria, I want to like we don't know each other, so I can understand also why you're like asking questions, asking how I would react to this,
Yeah,
right?
this is my natural producer way even, just both on a
Curiosity.
personal level and a
Yeah.
professional level. I'll just ask
Yeah.
all the questions. Yeah.
Yeah, I love asking all the questions. I'd be like, "Are you getting mad? Like,
Oh
are you
yeah.
getting mad
Oh yeah.
because I just want to know?" And
Oh
so,
yeah.
you are a producer. So does that mean you're
Yes.
also a gamer, or are you just like a really good producer
Oh no,
who's in the game industry?
absolutely. Absolutely a gamer. I think gamer first, and that's what led me to searching for games jobs in whatever that was, 2019, 2020 ish. And we know how 2020 was. So it took a little while.
No, I
And
don't
now
think we know because we think it was like yesterday. I think
yeah,
that needs to be studied because
it's a black box. Yeah, that's right. 2020 didn't happen. Yeah. No, but yes, gamer first and foremost. I think like RPGs, Sims, cozy games, getting into horror a little bit, kind of all games in every game. Sometimes including sports. Like I just like games in general, like capital G games. And I also like process how things happen, how things work, and I think that was like the perfect combo for me to become a producer in the industry. So it's really fun. It's a really challenging and fun role I've got right now. Yeah.
that's really interesting that you say that because I always think that people who are gamers, especially from like a young age, and they say RPG, like y'all are
Yeah.
the real deal. Because
Y-
I couldn't.
The
Even if
nerd
I had a
nerds, yeah.
chance, yes, like you're the elite. You know what I mean? Like
Oh,
there's
I don't know
levels
if
to it.
elite is the I don't know about that.
Anyways,
I don't know about that.
but like because you got to think about it. I'm gonna say how old I am. You don't have to,
Okay.
but I'm 33, and so I could have had the chance to play like a Legend of Zelda or like a Final Fantasy, but I didn't, right? Like I
Yeah.
just kind of had like I had the racing game, which I love, and I had Tekken, which I love, right?
Yeah.
But as a 6, 7 year old, that's just button mashing, right?
Yeah.
Like that's just
Oh
button
yeah.
mashing, and then turning the controller. I had like a little bit of motor skills on the joysticks, but like
Yeah.
barely none. And so
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it. I'm like, I would play like Howie's Funhouse. Like I would play computer games and like print stickers, but like
Yeah.
y'all was in the trenches. Like y'all was in the trenches. You know what I mean? Like
I think
saving people, getting the towers
oh,
together. Like,
well,
you
you
know?
say that, but the past two Zelda games on Switch that I've played, it's a whole lot of running around and like just seeing if I can fly to the next thing, or
That's cool.
like like Breath of the Wild right now and Tears of the Kingdom, they've got these little Koroks, right? And you can find and collect those guys. Well, now you've got like crafting engineering in those games. So what if you made like a hoverboard situation and just propelled that Korok as far as it could go? It doesn't. There's no quest. There's no mission. It's just running
But
around
isn't
and
that what
messing in
it's
the game.
for? Like it wouldn't be in
It's
there. Like you
the
know what I
best thing
mean?
ever. It's the
And
best thing
and
ever.
your brain that you were developed with when you were playing the games is a bit different now, but you still keep that same
That's
curiosity.
it.
As
That's it.
like me who grew up on the sandboxy games, I'm like, why would I now I have a problem with being a completionist because I can't just
Right.
enjoy. Because if I
Right.
touch every corner of the game, it's not that big and usually you can't go over there. And so I just started with the RPG when God of War became an RPG. That was the
Yes.
one where I was like, "Oh, I can play this." But the other one, especially the JRPGs, I said, "Listen here.
They're
I'm
huge.
not
Yeah.
about to keep doing this. Like this is going to take hours and now I'm even more of an adult. I cannot.
I get you on that.
I cannot like spend this time." And so
It is
um
how I that kind of like almost overwhelming feeling is how I feel about MMOs a little bit, because they're
yeah,
just like
wide
forever.
boy so much.
And I
Yeah.
really love, like, I know some close friends that love their MMOs and I love watching them play them. But me,
Mhm.
I'm going to sit over here on the linear story
Yeah.
solo side. That's me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that. But it really won't cease to amaze me though that like y'all was really out here like solving problems. And I'm not
Well,
saying that I wasn't like a smart kid, but like I remember picking up what game did I pick up? It was probably Call of Duty. It was on Xbox 360. It was like
yeah.
2013. And I was like, what are you supposed to do? No, that's not true. That's not true. Because I had a PlayStation. I had a
Okay.
PlayStation 3 in college. So I had gotten
Okay.
a PlayStation 3 in college. So,
Okay.
but I would play like Assassin's Creed. And literally, my lifelong friends now, they were helping me because they're like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
literally, they were like older brothers. They're like, just give me the sticks. I'm like, no, I can do it. I'm gonna figure it out. But
I
like,
think I'm your friends in this situation where I
yeah,
do have friends where I'm like, okay, how do I want you to experience it, but how do you look like you need a
yeah,
little bit of help. Let me try and
a
help
lot.
you.
Like literally, like because now this is a very good segue into like using walkthroughs. Like because I feel like
Yes.
I'm cheating when I use walkthroughs now, only
Yes.
because I'm like, no, you need to figure it out, and I'm such a problem solver. So it's like. Why aren't you figuring this out? But like if I'm doing something where I'm like, oh, I kind of just want to get through, like I'll use a walkthrough. Like
Yeah.
what
No,
did I
like
use it for? I played Flow. Do you know Flow, the
oh,
one with
I've heard
the
of it, but I've never played it. Yeah.
yeah, so it's like Pokemon. You just gotta
Nice.
catch the different species and you can unlock species by catching like there's 4 or 5 in a group. And
Nice.
so, I was getting to the end and I was like, man, I really just can't find this one thing. And it was like, it comes out at night. And even at night in that area, I still
It's
had to sit
already
there for
hard.
like, another like hour or two. And I think it's a kid's game. And I was like, listen, I'm not getting it.
Well,
Um,
I mean,
but
kids
yeah.
maybe they have more time to really dive
Their
into that.
brain
I don't know.
has to work differently because I tried to play a Lego game as an adult and they're like, "You're supposed to smash everything." I was like, Why would I do that? I thought we were
Oh
just
no, see, that's
going
me.
from
That's me.
like
Yeah.
the
That's the
kids do
RPG brain, you're
understand.
right. That's the
Yeah.
you found a jar, you either chuck it or
Yeah.
you pick it up and you keep it. I don't know.
Oh my
That's
goodness. I
yeah.
get a little bit scared. I'd be like, I'm stealing. I'm like, am I supposed to steal right now? Because
I mean,
sometimes I would just go into games and I'd pick it up and it'd be like, hey, you're
hey,
stealing. And it would scare me. I'd be like,
yeah,
ah.
the classic Skyrim
So
situation. Yes, yeah.
what's the game? Star
Which
Wars.
one?
I was playing Star Wars Outlaws, and
Yep.
it was like steal, and I was like, okay. And so I think I'm being stealthy, but as soon as you steal, they were like, no, we see you, and I was like,
Yeah,
wow,
yeah,
you're
yeah.
just playing in my face right
No,
now. Like,
you gotta
this
be
is not a
careful.
great feeling. So, yeah, but it's cool. I think it's cool, but you guys, you have like a jump on the competition, so you're like, okay, I can see, and that has to work with you being a producer, right? Like you are able to
Yes.
see that bigger picture because you've had that for so long. As like, I'm currently making my own game, so like I am producer, and
Oh,
like one of
awesome.
the programmers asked me something and I was like, I don't know, just like
I don't
do
know.
it. And they're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
no, you have to actually. And I'm like, I have to what? Like, I have to what? Like,
Yep.
and he was like, okay, let me like walk you through it, because I told them, I said, everyone on my team, I was like, if you guys don't mind like working in the Discord, not for me to watch you, but for me to understand the
No,
process.
it's
So when you
important.
guys are asking me questions, I can like learn what I'm supposed to learn and then give you the jargon that you need. And so um
I
we
was
we're
definitely a bit of a complainer is not the right word. I was just
okay.
more of like a, hey, can we move this conversation into a channel? Hey, can we
Yeah.
move this conversation into a
Yeah.
channel? And I think a lot
Yeah.
of producers are like that, and that's
Yeah.
part of the reason why is just because
Yeah.
like not everyone specializes in everything, so
Yeah.
sometimes you got to know the
Yeah.
context, and context helps. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I was
I'm context
definitely.
all the time, always. That's I can't turn that
Yeah.
off, which is like a
Yeah.
strength and
No,
a
but like,
weakness.
yeah, because it's really interesting, because before people were talking about neurodivergent, people just used to be like, "Are you okay?" And I'd be
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, you're just not saying
Are you
something."
okay?
Like,
Yeah. No, it's you.
yeah, like, because I would ask, like I remember this very specific example, and it's a very small thing, but
Yeah.
we were in science class, and she was like, "Take your thermometer." We had like a jar of dirt. She was like, "Take your thermometer and put it underneath,
Okay.
put it like underneath the dirt." And I took it and I literally put it underneath the glass, and she was like, "No, that's not what I meant." And I was like, abajo detrás, I know. I know it. I
You
know
said the
up
word
and down.
underneath. This
Like,
is
this
above,
is underneath,
underneath.
but I just like, when I started getting into misunderstandings, I would think about that, and I was like, "Oh, they said what they meant, but I filtered it and it means this to me." And she was like, "No, I meant like put it in." And I was
Yeah,
like, "That's the right word, but
that's right.
not to be a jerk, like not
That's
to
right.
play with semantics." So I have to then repeat back what I think you just said, right?
That's
Like,
right.
yeah,
And not
yeah.
every like not every production process is the same. Like things are, yes, there's things that are universal, of course,
Mhm.
throughout
Mhm.
development, but not everything is. And like that reaction that you had to being like, I put it underneath is like a
Yeah.
very normal, natural reaction. But like if you take that into a
Yeah.
setting, it's like, okay, well, maybe if we ask a question, or maybe we're like, hold on
Mhm.
and talk
Mhm.
more, then
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be so either frustrating, like sometimes it just
Yeah.
gets frustrating, or just like, you can kind of
Yeah.
figure it out together and it becomes more collaborative.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah, and
in the
I
dirt.
like to see how people are in the dirt. I need to like
In
put
the
that
dirt.
like on a pin or something
Yeah.
for other neurodivergence, because
In.
on in. Maybe you can change the pin to on to
Does
in.
the thermometer
Um,
need to touch the dirt or no?
like yes or no. Like, yeah, like should I put it up to 50 or like 7? Like which
That's it.
line, you
That's
know?
it.
Because that's another part of it. I really like to watch how you do it or ask you how you do it, and not to copy you, but to be like, but if I get to the result, then that's fine. Like,
That's it.
what's your KPI? Like, tell
That's
me your
it. That's
KPI,
it.
and then I
Yes.
could just do it. And it doesn't matter if I throw the dirt up in the air and then it lands on the thing. Like, it
Yes.
doesn't matter. I could just get to it. And so that's all. And I thank God that I am like a journalist by trade, because then I get to ask those questions and I get to
Yes.
be curious, and then I can understand what
Yes.
like questions need to be asked so people can make it clear to me.
That's it.
And so like is that a part of like how first of all, we're getting well, there's so many branches to like this
Yeah, I
conversation, and I
know.
I want to touch all of them. But they're on the same timeline, so we're gonna work with it. But like, you know, how does that work? Because you don't just work, like you guys aren't the singular company like making a different game. Like you're not a Ubisoft, you're not a
That's
Red
right.
Links, like or Linux. No, it's
Yeah,
Links. You're not like Red Links. Like
links.
you're helping all these other people. So you're talking about the process is different. Like
That's right.
how are you able to meet what people are asking you? Like, how are you able to do? And clients everywhere are the same. They don't know what they're asking for, or they have a misunderstanding,
Yeah,
delusions of grandeur because they're very excited about their product.
yeah.
Um, so how are you able to like communicate, like, um, not like set expectation because you can be like, yeah, we can do that. However, this is what it looks like. Like, how are you able to do that? And what are some skills
That's
that led up to you
yeah.
doing that?
Yeah, that's got layers.
Yeah,
There's
it's
layers
onion.
to that one.
Yeah, yeah,
There's a lot of different ways I think that we do that, and I'm gonna say we a lot. But I think it kind of goes the creative part kind of goes in hand in hand with the production part, and that's like a larger game development topic. But at least for us at Sweet Baby, you know, the first thing that happens is someone comes to us with a need or a want, right? They're like, okay, well, this is what it is right now, this is what the game looks like, this is where we are in production, like a typical production timeline for a game. And then they're like, this is what we want. And sometimes they're even a step ahead and they're like, this is what we thought we want, and we don't actually know what we want. And that's also totally fine. That's kind of normal.
yeah.
And so after that, it's a lot of asking questions. It's a lot of listening. And it's a lot of like collective thinking. I think at some point we just kind of all get on the same page with whatever the client has in terms of documentation, and then we talk over what the needs were from the client, and that what we actually think the needs are. And then
Yeah.
sometimes it's we got to mold those two together, because we can't just
Hmm.
do what we think you need. That's not how that works either. But it's usually like, all right, you have to look at the market, whatever this genre this game exists in already, the context of how this game is being built, what other studios or publishers or developers are involved in the project. And that's kind of where I come in, because that's a lot of production conversations. And then the actual creative needs. And then we go in and it's just a lot of talking, and it's a lot of thinking and strategizing about what that need is before we start like producing documents or script writing or providing a character outline, eh,
So they can't
reports.
even come and talk to you until they know like an outline of
They
what they want, or can they be
No,
like,
as in no, so sorry, we create those things. We
yeah,
usually get, like an introduction, and then we talk and absorb first, because
okay,
usually they already have something. I don't think
okay,
there's really it's pretty rare for them to say like we've got no story, because even if your game's not a narrative game, you've got a world, you've got
yeah,
game mechanics, you've got characters. That's already some story. Where did those
hmm,
things come from? And so that's the tasty part for me, is
yeah,
like, okay,
yeah,
cool. Tell me more about what you want to convey,
yeah,
and why and how. And then we get into that together. And then we say, okay, well, based on what you want to convey, these are the ways you could do it, or these are the ways you could do it. And
okay,
it's an evolving conversation, because that's kind of like the magic, if you will, the arcane science of games
hmm,
is, like gameplay, game design, all of the other disciplines, they got to work together to make sure that the story you're telling is hitting all the points and making the player feel what you want them to feel at any given time. And that's takes time, and it takes a lot of talking, and it takes a lot of like questions and pushback and kind of debating on things, and then you get into the writing of it all. Uh,
Okay.
yeah,
That's really cool.
yeah,
I asked about the like what are the prerequisites that they have to have before they come to you.
yeah,
While I was in Finland, I was like looking into like starting a business, and
yeah.
they were like, your client should know what they want, and I was like, no, I think that's my job to have the idea, and they were like, well, no, they should have like an idea so that you can build on that idea. So,
Yes.
um,
Yeah,
yeah,
the
it's
more
less
information
stressful.
that you have and the more you know what you want to do, always the better, I think. Even just outside of like working with clients and working with other studios, I've just come to learn that the more intentional you are, if you've got a direction that you want to go, like let's say, for example, you want to make, I don't know, a love story, or you want to make, a story about a specific type of conflict between one type of character and another type of character. Um, the whys and the hows and all of those questions, I think the more you know, even if you don't know if that's the right choice to make, the more you know and the more context you give us, the more we're able to go, okay, well, this is why they want these things. There might be a different way to actually do this or execute on this, and that's kind of our superpower a little bit, because we've been able to kind of come together, have a collective of people at Sweet Baby that have different perspectives, different work experiences, and like all sorts of different skills that can kind of like think about story and how to tell a story in a game differently. And that's something that can be rare, because on some projects it's just one writer or it's just like a small team of people, and so that's, I think, the need or the benefit of working with us, at least. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah,
yeah,
that's really good. That's
yeah.
really good. So you said you just joined 3 years ago,
That's right.
which is a blink of an eye. I can only
Yes.
imagine. Like, did you have
Yes.
to count and be like, wait, that was
Yeah, when
2020?
exactly was that? Yes. It feels, time doesn't feel real anymore. The
No, I don't know
pandemic
if it's
kind of
being an
really.
adult. Maybe it's
Yeah,
being an adult, like in the
maybe.
and the pandemic. But I don't like. It could be Friday. I don't know. Like, who
No, it
knows?
definitely
Yeah.
doesn't feel like
No.
Friday yet.
Okay.
I
That.
for
Yeah.
sure
Yeah.
it doesn't feel
Yeah.
like Friday yet.
Yeah, yeah, facts, facts. I already did
Yes.
yesterday. I was watching like Bob's Burgers, and I was like, like
Oh, there you
cackling,
go.
like I didn't have any worries. I was like, this is great. And then I was like,
No,
yeah, you gotta get up
Bob's
tomorrow.
Burgers is the best to do that with,
Bob's
though.
Burger, Bob, Linda, Louise,
I know.
Queen, if
They
you're
were I
listening,
was I was
please.
just I just put Bob's Burgers on while I was packing for
Yeah,
my trip. Like, I just like to put that
it's
on
a get done
and do some
show.
stuff. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
When I was packing to leave Finland, it was
Yep.
Bob's Burgers for like a week. Like I
Yep.
was like episode 1 on. Like
Yep.
I it's a get done show. Like some
Yeah.
shows you're like, "Oh, I'm going to sit down and kind of just like relax." That's not Bob's Burgers because it's
No.
so energetic, it's so funny.
It's
Like,
fantastic.
they're moving, they're going very fast.
Yes.
Not
Yeah.
sponsored by Bob's Burgers, but looking for it soon.
Yeah, I mean,
Um
they're great.
yeah.
We love them.
We love them. I have the cookbook. I started
No
making burgers
way.
from the cookbook and then like post like I love Bob's Burgers. Like
I did
and
a
I would even
presentation in
really?
university that was Bob's Burgers themed. It was
Oh my
like it wasn't even
gosh.
like the content
Yeah.
wasn't even related to
You
Bob's
just had
Burgers.
to
I
put it in
just
there.
I just
Yeah.
wanted to, I knew everyone would love it.
Yeah, and we're talking about your time being a blink of an eye, but like to me, Bob's Burgers came out like last week. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's been out
Yeah.
this year. Like it's still really good. The story, like
Yes.
I haven't gotten tired of it, and even sometimes I watch it and I'm like, I don't even remember this episode. Like,
Yeah,
let
no,
me
it's
go back
great.
and watch like this season or that season again.
It's great.
What's one of your favorite jingles from the show?
Oh no, you're putting me on the spot. I don't know. See, I'm terrible at lyrics and names of
Okay,
anything, but I
okay,
can do visuals. That's
okay,
my thing. I'm
okay,
way more visual. But
okay.
God, you know what? We went through, my family and I went through some of the Christmas episodes recently.
Absolutely.
And I don't remember. I remember they lost their Christmas tree that they were bringing to this,
Yeah.
to like the
Yeah.
cabin or something, and
Yeah.
that is maybe not my favorite, but is
Yeah.
top of mind. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't have a title for you though. I'm sorry.
Mine is burgers and fries.
Oh,
You
that's a
want some
classic.
burgers and fries?
That's a
I'll tell you, you know
classic.
what? Yeah. And it was my ringtone. And my friend was like, "Can you cut that off?" I was like, "No, I'm
No!
living my best life." Like,
No!
yeah. Yeah, I
No,
really
that's
like
good.
burgers and fries, and
That's
anything
good.
Gene produces, a banger,
Strongly
right?
agreed.
Anything Gene produces is absolutely a
Strongly
banger.
agree.
And
Yep,
so, yeah. What
that's
were you
good.
doing before Sweet Baby Inc?
It's a
What
good
led
question.
up to it?
I was kind of all over the place. I did project management, just generally. That's the theme, which kind of makes sense now that I'm a producer. I was working in student affairs. I got my one of like my major jobs. You do retail, part time, normal stuff. But then I was working in student affairs as like a community advisor. So
Nice.
I that was my first experience managing like 100-person team with a couple other people. And I was like, like early 20s. So that was like it was like a pillar, I would say, in terms of like just learning how to organize a team, learning how to document things and make it like accessible to like, okay, this is what we need to do and why we need to do it, and then get everybody on board, like that kind of thing. I saw quickly, I was like, oh, I like this stuff, and
Yeah.
after that, I actually worked in the fitness industry briefly and did kind of a
Okay.
similar thing where it was like kind of admin, project management, kind of helping to
Wait a
run
minute.
operation
Let's
stuff.
pause right here because I have questions.
Do you? Do you? Do
I don't
you?
know a lot about the fitness industry besides, what people kind of portray. And like, I think if there's anything involving human bodies, it's going to get weird. It's going to
Yep.
get like
Yep.
unpleasant. So, like, is
Yeah.
that,
Yes. It was a strange felt like a strange paradox because I, even if I'm speaking from personal experience,
How'd you go?
what, what
How'd you
happened?
go, honey?
What?
Go. That's
Did
my
your
pit
dog do
bull.
something?
She's built like a tank, and I'm trying to move her, and she's literally eighty
Is this
percent
the dog?
head.
This is who you brought with you to Finland? Oh my god, I
Yes,
love pit bulls. I think they're the
yes.
cutest.
I'll show you to her when
Yeah,
we're
you got
done.
him.
But like, she was just right up under me, and I was like, okay, go. Like at first, I was like nudging her, and then I had to put my arm
Yeah,
into
yeah,
it, like
yeah,
get out the way. She's strong, boy. She is strong. I'm sorry.
it's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the it was a it was like a weird paradoxical feeling. I definitely was a gym rat myself, and I say was because the pandemic really changed my lifestyle, and I think for the better. Like I think I needed to
Do you
slow
think
down,
you're getting carried away?
and I'm
Use
glad. Yeah,
protein,
exactly.
throwing back the protein
That's
shakes,
it,
like,
right? It was,
yeah,
and that's the thing is like I was definitely my strongest and my fittest, but I was also so critical of myself and
yeah,
trying to maintain all of that. And so I think that's the kind of catch 22 is like there
yeah,
are lots of good people that I met in the fitness industry, but there's also lots of toxic things about the fitness industry, and
yeah,
like it's tough to see people talk to themselves the way I was talking to myself,
yeah,
and like being so strict, and like life is short, like life is
yeah,
short, eat more than that, please, Maria,
yeah,
past Maria.
yeah,
And also like being the most fit you can possibly be maybe not is like the goal you need to maintain all the
yeah.
time, right? Like there's mental health to consider, there's like community and support, and going out and going to dinner and eating terrible food with your best friends, like stuff like that's also important in your life. So uh
How did that
yeah.
mm, not mesh with your culture? Like, we have
Yeah.
a very food-centric culture, or like it's a
Oh
very
yeah.
part of us and we love it. And
Oh
so
yeah.
if you were like restricting yourself and you were still around family where they're like, what are you doing?
I think
Or
that's the thing. It was a time in
yeah.
my life where I wasn't around family that much.
Ah,
And like
okay.
I was away, like I've been away from home for a long time, and
Yeah.
I kept in contact with my family for the most part online when I
Yeah.
can. And so I was kind of on my own, and I was kind
Yeah.
of like trying to figure out what was the easiest way and fastest way to cook a meal, as you do, like
Yeah,
as you
for
do in
sure.
your early 20s and
'Cause
onward.
sometimes eating's overwhelming, you know?
Well,
Like,
yeah.
at this point in my life, I romanticize every meal, so, like, I make sure I do eat, like,
Yes.
literally, like, I have, like, grapes, I have,
Oh
just
yeah.
something, like, at every meal, so I'm like, "Oh, wow, this is, like, really pretty," and I wanted to eat it. Otherwise, I'm like, "What do you mean, what am I eating for dinner? I ate yesterday!"
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Well, especially I don't know if this is true for you too, like, my Caribbean family are grazers, like, the whole family snacks all the time, like, we'll
Yeah.
do a couple like, yeah, sure, we'll definitely do meals, but I
Yeah.
got so much in the habit of grazing that I never felt hungry and I never felt full, and that was easy to, I think, undereat at the
Okay.
time,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that's it,
yeah.
we got through that, that's okay.
Yeah, good, 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 good. Thank you for sharing that because you
No,
didn't have to,
absolutely,
and I definitely
absolutely.
asked, but it's a thing. Like, it's really weird how, like, food can become like a weird thing. Like, no matter what you're
Mhm.
doing, you're trying to be fit, or, you're doing some caloric diet, and I think it's just important because you can not even realize, like,
Yes.
I think when I was in Finland, like, I would just be on the phone with my friend. I'm like, "I'm hungry." And she'd be like, "Girl,
Yeah.
why?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, "What do you mean why? Like,
What
what do you say to why? Like, what do you say to, like,
wait,
why?
you're hungry. That's just a thing that happens. What do you mean?
Like
Yeah, yeah.
and so she'd be like, "So what are you gonna eat?" I'd be like, "I don't know. I guess I'm just like wait till dinner." And she's like,
No,
"If you
have a
don't
snack.
eat something like right now," and so like now I have to have like a lunch or something else, which is what I want it to be, but I just
Yeah.
adjusting to life is rough. Like,
Yeah.
you went from doing something in like education, like a community stuff, to like, doing the fitness thing, and you really are your environment. Like, you really
Yes.
are your environment. And
Truly.
so, and you
Yes.
want to be the best. You want to surround yourself with people who are like better than you. So then you're doing these things and you're
Yes.
like, well, that's not working for me. It's probably not even working for them, but like that's really not working for me.
Yes,
So,
exactly. Yep. And
whew,
then the jump into games wasn't it's not much of a story. It's just that 2020 happened, a lot of hiring freezes happened, and
yeah,
I was job searching I think for a whole year, stressed out of my
yeah,
mind. And that's when I started living with family because that's kind of what you have to do sometimes. I had a few existing contacts and connections in games, and so they were
yeah,
like, "Oh, well, go talk to this person, go talk to this person," and eventually that led me to Kim at Sweet Baby, and the timing was right, and they were looking for more
yeah.
people. And then I joined. I joined as like a production coordinator, communications coordinator type deal for like 3 months, and then I quickly was like right into production, and
Nice.
that was great. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's amazing. So,
yeah.
like, during the hiring process, they weren't like, wow, why don't you have 12 years of producing experience? Or it was actually like reasonable because how many
Correct.
years in total do you have with like producing, project managing?
Yeah, if we're counting project management, that's oh god. Like it's not an amazing number, but it's like 6 or
Okay.
7-ish, right?
Yeah.
But
So that was
because
like your
it's
thing.
not yeah,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
Because it's not game specific, that
Yeah.
was the only caveat, and I think that's why I eased into the role and we started on like smaller indie projects that were like just more manageable in general, and then we got to some of those bigger things most
Wow. Who would
recently.
have thought that they actually wanted to have you grow and
Yes.
teach you the skills
And
that
give
you
me a bit
didn't
of a
know?
chance, and now we're here. Yeah,
Wow.
it turns out that that works. Yeah, that
Yeah.
works.
Amazing. Yeah, they be wildin'. They be wildin' out here, like, for no money too. Like, how you
The
gonna be you have to pick a struggle, right? Like, isn't that what we tell
yeah,
people to pick a struggle? And they're like,
yeah,
"Oh, we actually want you to have all of this, but it's a junior role." And it's like,
yes.
either way, I still have to learn.
And
Like, I still
like
have to learn what you want
sometimes
me to do.
that doesn't pay rent in a city that someone lives in, and what do you like? Oh, okay,
Yeah.
you know?
Whew. Okay,
Yeah.
so you got into the gaming industry when a lot of people were experiencing the downward of this
I think it was
chart.
just before. I think
Just
it was
before.
like, let's say 6 months before. And I think that's also like speaks to how strange it feels to have jumped into the industry now of all
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was definitely like there were more hires after me. And I think everyone was still in a good mood for a little while.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was it like to work with Sweet Baby Inc. at a time where um, the industry was kind of going through this overturn and this
Yeah.
release of like really good talent? Like, were you ever like nervous, or did you see like a slowdown on like projects? I don't know if you can talk about that, but
Yeah.
yeah, what did that look like and how did it feel?
Yeah. It was a good, I want to say it was, I said 6 months earlier. I want to say like 6 months to a year of like a plateau. So I
Okay.
didn't, at least I could get my bearings first and like
Yeah.
really better understand different games processes and different like development styles before any of that kind of happened. I think the first news of the layoffs, yeah, I'm trying to think back about how I felt and how everyone felt around me. I'm kind of an anxious person myself generally. Like I like to much to me being a producer, I like to plan a lot and I like to think ahead a lot. And so as soon as I got the inkling of like, oh my god,
Yeah.
this company did this or did this layoffs, I think people were not totally surprised because that's not totally new to the tech industry. Like that, this has happened before in other
Yeah.
ways. But I
Yeah.
think what was different about this time around, and it was like my, I'm just in it. I'm just kind of starting. Was everyone talking about just it being unprecedented or it being like, okay, well, yeah, one or two or like, a couple months of this news, but it just kept going. And I think that
Yeah.
really tipped me off to being like, okay, well, I don't know how to feel about that yet. And it was a kind of a low level amount of unease for a while. And
Yeah.
then absolutely, I think later on, as we have now done, what is that, 3 years, 2 years. I said a year, 2 years of like layoff after layoff after this news after, oh, it's someone you know now, or it's a mutual friend, or it's
Yeah.
oh, this person has done something amazing on this other game that you love and now this has happened.
Yeah.
that that hit, I think that hits everybody no matter what. And I think I don't think it got easier, but it got more comfortable to just talk about that across studios, across our ongoing collaborations with clients. It was just like it's commonplace to talk about it. And it kind of comes out like, I don't think I can speak to like specific client experiences, but it comes out in just like, yep, for this thing we're still looking for funding, so that might impact this, or like, oh, we do want to do this kind of work, or we want to move forward on this part, but we are looking for funding, or mm, actually we've had some sort of merge, or like, oh, there is this team that is no longer there, and so we need to reshuffle everything. And so you can kind of get a sense, just overall you get that like sixth sense of like, oh yeah, this is a bit of a special time in the industry right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can imagine because you're like, if they're great and I just got here, why I'm
What's
gonna be.
happening? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I think that's really good.
Yeah.
I think it's really good that you have that experience because a lot of people don't. And I think one of my
Yes.
favorite things about talking to people is everyone's experience is different.
Yes.
I'm not discounting like the anxiousness of the situation.
Oh yeah.
Um, you know, I have also heard like these like dredged deep trench stories of like, and people are still trying to do it, and like
Yeah.
it's really nice. It's just really nice that there are two sides, because you could be like, well, this person went through it and they came out better, and it's
Yep.
like Maria's going through it, and like especially with people can relate with anxiety, like
Oh yeah.
it didn't happen to you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah.
maybe they can calm down.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's
Yes.
okay to just take a breath. And so um
Yes.
I really like hearing that. I really like
Yeah.
hearing that you
And a
you
part of it
were
is like for me, I always try and tell myself like you can have the emotions about it, right? Like
absolutely.
that's normal and everyone's going to get stressed. But
Yeah.
then what are you going to do about it? And
Yeah.
the answer is we got to keep working. Like we got to keep doing what we're doing and like we have to keep talking with people and
Yeah.
finding ways for skilled game devs to keep doing what they want to do
Yeah.
because that is I think why the games industry is so great and why people love to play games is because those
Yeah.
game devs really 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 care. And that's partially why I became a producer, because I want to help those game devs make that experience for other people. All those games that I played in my childhood, especially RPGs, all of that came from game devs who care and who are
Yeah.
really thinking about this stuff and doing a lot of work. So I wanted to support that. Yeah,
Maria, what are your technical skills? Like what what does it take? Like what is
to be a
something that you
producer.
had to
Yeah.
work for a project manager and producer? Like what is your technical skill?
Yeah. There's a list. I keep seeing my list and being like, "Oh, I need to add this to it. I need to add this to it." But yeah, I think for me, one of my strengths is just being able to adapt to whatever the heck anyone else needs to use at that time. So before games, it was just Excel sheets. It was looking at numbers. It was tracking dates. It was making sure things lined up and then communicating that all the way through different teams. And so the technical skills come down to like, okay, do you know how to use this piece of software and how accessible is it to everyone else on that team? And I think, a lot of that is lies in soft skills that are sometimes hard to it's kind of hard to describe almost. Like it is a mixture of knowing software and being able, even if you don't know the software very well, you need to be able to go into something, create something that makes sense and is easy to describe to someone else, and then be able to kind of relay that back after approval. And I think that's kind of a vague, I don't know if I'm actually answering your question, but
I think
it's
you are answering the
yeah,
question in an
yeah,
important way that is not like I'm an artist and I'm a producer. I'm a coder and I'm a
yes.
producer. I'm a game design person and I'm a producer. Because that can be a bit taunting to be
Mm,
like, oh, well, I could do this great thing, but then it's like I just decided to produce, and like you're using like your skills of organization, you're using your skills of research,
that's right.
and like understanding people and what the
Yes,
people need, and accessibility and things like that
that's it.
to carve a path for yourself
Yeah.
in a
For
space where everyone feels like they need to be so technical.
Yes, I think for me as well, like as you're talking about that, one of the things that stands out to me is empathy and emotions.
Empathy. Put your
Yeah.
place in front of me. Put yourself in front of me. It's from Adventure Time. I don't remember, but yeah.
You know what? I feel guilty saying this out loud, but I've only watched like mini episodes when it's been playing at a friend's. I need to
Mm.
watch it
My
Adventure
first
Time.
thought was throw tomatoes, but then I know that we are evolved women.
I It's
we don't.
okay. I would let it happen and I would understand and then we would move
Yeah.
forward. That's all
It's
good.
good, but
Yeah.
like, also maybe if you watched it now, you'd be like, like I started watching it like in college, like, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then it evolved into like this crazy story. Cause at first it was just kind of like, it wasn't canonical
Yep.
at all. But
Yeah.
then it was just like, hey, remember that random thing you never thought we'd like look at again? It's actually a
Yeah. We're,
big deal.
we're
Like,
bringing it back.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so it was good. It has a place in my heart, definitely. But yeah, you have to watch it. What about regular show? Did you
Yeah,
watch
yeah, yeah.
regular show?
Oh, I'm like slowly catching up. Okay. I'm really
Yeah.
bad at shows and movies.
No,
It,
that's
it
cool. So what's like
it's
so like
kind
your
of
thing is games? Like
is
that's like your
games.
thing?
Like
Okay.
I will
So
play hours and hours. Well, because it's RPGs, right? So
yeah,
that's
yeah,
where I sink a lot of my time into. And
yeah,
if I really like a story or a game, I'll spend
yeah.
hours in it. So that's yeah,
I find it
yeah.
easier to watch shows and anime.
Yeah.
dubbed when I'm working because I can get
Yes.
through it. I can get through like a season. But I
Yes.
also think that's the being an entrepreneur, right? Because I gotta do this
100%.
podcast, and then I gotta edit this podcast, and then I gotta edit it for social, and
You
then I
got
gotta do
stuff to
this.
do.
And so it's like, and I don't want to watch someone play a certain game because I want to like know what that feels like. But other things, I'm like, yeah, that's
See, I'm
whatever.
kind
So
of the opposite. I know if there's a game that I know I can't play for whatever reason, it might be too
yeah,
stressful for me to play,
yeah,
or I'm just like, you know what? There are so many games out there. I don't know if
yeah,
I can't play them all. I just literally
yeah,
can't play them all. I like having it's kind of like having a buddy, you know? Like it's that
yeah, yeah.
parasocial relationship where
Oh,
you
that's
like
really
see
sweet.
them
Yeah.
react and I'm
I
like
don't play games
reacting.
that well for someone to be they would rage at me, Like my walkthrough is not the one you would want to watch. Like that's the one you watch live and you're like you just had to be there. Like
I
don't watch the
again,
VOD.
empathy, I might just be like, she's gonna get it. I'll go do my other chores here and check back,
Yeah.
and she'll get it. I know she'll get it. So
Yeah, I've been stuck on stuff for like 2 streams, and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna end the stream, you guys, and then just figure it out. Like,
wave the white flag. Yeah,
yeah, this has been, amazing. Yeah, I think that's really great though because I love the last part that you said because
yeah,
I'm like, okay, if Maria's thing is games, like that's what you're gonna do,
yeah,
then like how caught up are you, like what's all the games that you're playing, and
yeah,
we have this in society,
yeah,
overconsumption that doesn't stop just because it's gaming. And
yeah,
like back in the day I used to get 3 games at once. Like I would walk into GameStop and I'd be like, okay, give me like my quick game that I could like like today it would be something like Fall Guys. Like I'd be like, let me play Fall Guys for 20 minutes to get my mind focused, and then I'm gonna start working.
yep,
And then I'd be like, okay, then I would get like my longer game, and then I would get my like multiplayer game. Like
right,
that was like, the thing. And like even then I was kind of doing a lot, but I would have time to play them
yes,
too, but different, also a different time in my life. So
yes,
um it's just very interesting that you're like, I will watch someone else like play that game because especially if you're into RPGs,
yeah.
I like in my head, I'm like, she's still on God of War Ragnarok, like doing all of the stuff, and maybe then you'll be at Baldur's Gate. But when we talk again in 3 years, you will have just finished Baldur's Gate, and then she's probably still on Persona 5, and then you
Well,
know what I
I
mean?
don't know
Like,
how you know all this information right now, but I have literally started Baldur's Gate like a
stop!
month ago and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love
yeah,
it and you'll
yeah,
see me in 5 years. It's fine. Yeah.
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 Hey, but
Yeah.
that's your money's worth, right?
Ugh,
Like
it's the
I
best.
haven't played Spider-Man because I didn't want people to ruin it for me because people are so hype about it. And that
Yeah.
came out like 2017.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
just waiting. I'm just
take
waiting
your
because I
time.
just want to be a web slinger so
Yeah,
bad. Like
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
love Spider-Man. I really hope they do a good job with the Black Panther one because I
Yeah.
really just want the
I'm
same
excited. Yeah.
like roomy feeling of just being able to just, so I
Yeah.
haven't played Spider-Man yet because I'm like, y'all were so hype about it that like you were almost doing too much. And this isn't to say that they can't be hype about it, but I was like, I don't know how much I could take. I don't know if I could play Spider-Man, talk Spider-Man, watch
Yeah.
Spider-Man, be Spider. And I feel like one of the movies had came out then. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe that was a little bit after the Gwen Stacy one, but
Yeah.
with Andrew Garfield. Yeah. But I was like, I can't have that much Spider-Man because then I don't want to run the risk of not liking something.
That's it.
Like I will take time away so I like it. And so
I think
right now,
there's a state of mind you need to be in for certain
yeah.
RPGs, and I think it's totally okay to just wait until. And if it's like years later, I don't think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
you gotta make sure that you can enjoy the game you want to as much as possible. That's the main
Yeah.
thing. That's
Yeah.
the main
That's
thing.
how I feel about Star Wars Outlaws because
Yeah.
only a couple of years ago did I watch like Star Wars from the Rudy to the Tootie, and I'm barely at the Tootie because I was like, wait,
Yeah.
why is this happening? Now
Yeah.
y'all want me to watch Clone War? Like now
Yeah.
you
It's a
want me to
lot.
watch a TV show?
It's a
Like
lot.
give me the cliff notes. But
Yeah.
I do have like a liking for Star Wars. Like if there's a Star Wars movie, I'm like, yeah, I'll watch it. Like I'm happy. I can't say excited because I know them Star Wars fans are real. They're really real about Gleep Glorp and Beef Borp, okay? They're very serious about them, and I don't know who they are.
Well,
So
one of them is my older brother, so I'm a little bit
uh
lucky because
yeah.
I get Spark Notes from him,
Yeah.
and that is
Yeah.
so helpful because
Yeah. Such a big world.
some fandoms I'm too late. It's
Yeah.
just too late to join, but I
Yeah.
like it, but
Doctor Who.
I just don't like it like
Yeah.
that, and so
Yeah.
I get info from him, and it's a great thing. It's really
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they're very happy to share too. Like
Well,
they're
that's
very
it.
happy to
That's it.
just be like, and this, and you're like, great. I didn't have to watch 6 movies because
That's
we
it.
just had like an hour-long conversation. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So with that being said,
Yeah.
I am playing the Star Wars Outlaws game, which I know a lot of people are upset about. But
Yeah.
one, I didn't pay for it, right?
Yeah.
Someone gave it to me. So
Yeah.
I'm looking at it from a different lens. So I'm never going to be shady and be like, what's wrong with you guys? What I do think is that it has a lot of content. And
Yes.
I think, but if you just can't stand to play it, like, I guess who cares
Yeah.
that there's a lot of content? But I think people might have got what they paid for. And I say that very like low, very like,
Yeah.
let's calm down, but I think people got what they pay for because there's a lot. I did have to button map it because it's interesting that they want you to press in the
Yeah.
right thumbstick though to be fair to like do action. I don't think it's accessible.
Yeah.
I don't think it's accessible. I don't think, it's not second nature. We have just been doing things with like an A or an X or a trigger or even like like, just
Well, there's
something else.
combos now too if you want to do a trigger and a button. There's a couple of
Yeah.
different ways, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's a little hard to know which one feels the best, I guess, in the right
Yeah.
time. It's
Yeah.
not my expertise, but like,
And then if you're also playing a game and like the buttons are frustrating, you're gonna feel that and be like, this game is already like, because
yes.
sometimes I play, and this is me
Yeah.
developing my RPG brain,
Yeah, yeah,
where
yeah.
I'm like, this isn't intuitive at all. I'm like, what do they want me to do? And
Oh
then
yeah.
now I'm fumbling with the controls, and so
Yeah.
it kind of comes out. So I stepped away from it for a little bit, but I have enjoyed it when it's like I'm at the end of my day and I'm like, oh, let me just turn on Star Wars. And it's like, well, I don't really have to do anything,
Just
right? I'm
get
like,
into
I
a
don't,
world. Yeah.
yeah, and it's nice to try to like do the pirate raids or like do the racing
Yes.
or something like that. So
The
I,
the
yeah,
main thing I think I've talked about, not the main thing I've talked about. That's not. Let me restart that. The I found an interesting thing learning that I am mostly a console gamer. I know there's a lot of us out there, but I'm a console gamer. But I really like RPGs and I really like simulation games. Like we're talking like your farm sims or sims themselves,
yeah,
and those two genres are mostly on PC.
mhm,
There's a lot of them are
yeah,
PC only, and there's
yeah,
a reason for that
yeah,
because the UI can get complicated, and it's so
yeah,
much better
yeah.
overall to have a mouse
Because
and
having to
keyboard.
use the same button for something, but you press another button
Oh,
to like
it's
click it, like that's
well,
that's a
like
lot.
people might call me crazy, but I play Baldur's Gate 3 on PlayStation. I don't play it on PC, and that's maybe a crazy
Whoa, we're
move.
getting radical out here. Let's hold back a little bit. Yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah, like I said,
you
yucking
know,
anybody's yum. Like
it's yeah, it's I got used to console and that is how I do it, and even if it's
yeah.
like a little bit weird and it feels a little bit weird, I feel fine with the controller, so
Yeah, and
that's
it's
my
what you
way.
know too. Like, did you grow up with a PlayStation? Like, is that
Yes,
like
I
your first?
did.
Yeah, some
I
things are
did.
just easier. Like, I was reviewing a controller and I was just so surprised because it was an Xbox controller, but it looked like a PlayStation. And
Yeah.
because I've had like a PlayStation for so long, I like dedicated a part of my life to like get to know Xbox so I could be well rounded.
Yeah.
And if you're on a PC, you might as well just buy an Xbox controller. Like
That's it.
now it's easy to put the PlayStation controller, but before you had to finagle, do this and do that.
Yep.
But now everything is just plug and play, and so
Yep.
it was just interesting, like seeing the PlayStation controller in my hand, and I was like, "What?" Because I still
Yeah.
had to use the buttons, but X, A, and X weren't the same. Like I still had to use like the 1, 2, 3, like the fourth button, and so
Yes.
yeah, but
A B
like
X
we were
Y
talking
whatever.
about earlier, we were talking about our Caribbean culture earlier about like how we get frustrated, and then we're speaking in our language, even if we haven't been thinking in it, or we don't really express it, but like when you're done, it's like
Yeah.
factory default, right?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
that's your setting.
That's
That's
it.
like your setting. Like because I can eat, like if you have a PlayStation and I'm playing on Xbox and you're like, what button I could press, I'm easily gonna be like, oh yeah, like triangle, like
That
square,
one.
like
That
circle.
one right
Y-
there is what you
y-
press. I don't know what it's called. That
like
one. That button.
the one that does the running. Just press all of them. I'll wait for you. Like
Sometimes the look my partner gives me, just like that blank stare of like, "Can you use any words?" And I'm like, "No, just get
just
it."
do the
Like
thing.
just
But that's
no.
also our culture. Get the
It
thing.
is.
Get
Yeah.
the thing
Oh
and do the
yeah.
thing and
It,
hand me the thing
it's gr-
quickly.
it's really funny because when we all get together, that's exactly how we'll talk. And
Yeah.
then the partners who didn't grow
Yeah.
up with that language are
They're
like,
like
"How are you doing anything right now?" Because I haven't heard a single particular noun.
synergy. Yeah. There's this guy. It was such a funny video. This guy is working with a Jamaican,
Yeah.
and he was like, "We're fixing a sink," and he's like, "Go get the something," and he's like, this, and he's like, no man, there's something and and he's like this, and like everyone in the comments is like, he's like
Context clues.
first-handedly like experiencing our childhood because get the thing, and like literally he was like, the Jamaican guy ended up taking a break because he was so stressed out, and I was like, yeah, yeah,
Damn.
but
Yeah.
seeing that is how we grew up. Do you think that's helped you with like producing and understanding people? Because we do
I
have to have an intuitive nature to survive at home and be like,
yes.
this is the thing to do and this is the thing not to do, not by learning, but by being like, I
Yes.
believe this is what's expected of me.
Yes. I mean, even I think adding, it's like yes, and because I'm mixed race, the other side of the family spoke a different language. And so like that added to it as well is like, yeah, I am all about context and information and like just trying to suss things out. so
Yeah.
so I think that's also a big part of production, like sometimes you don't necessarily know what need is connected to another need. And you don't necessarily like you're not as a producer, you're not necessarily meant to know unless you are specializing. You're not meant to know every single little thing about what a dev is doing or how they do it or why, right? But you do need to know how everything's going to move forward, and sometimes that means you need to zoom in and out of all sorts of different things. And how do you do that? Well,
Perspective.
you gotta figure out the kinds of different languages that people speak when they're making games, and then have everything connect together. And it's a big task sometimes.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. I think because that, I don't think that's not a technical skill. I think that's a soft skill. Like, are
Yeah.
you able to switch perspectives,
Yes.
and be able to cater to one person, especially artists? Oh, I love them. But
Yeah.
y'all are, I'm just so happy you have the brain that you have. But like, golly, and I used to be a teacher. So
Yeah.
because I never wanted to talk to like kids like they were like, do you understand what I'm saying? I'm
No.
able to like bring that to adults and be like, so you catch me or you don't catch me. So
Yeah.
what do you think? What do you
That's
think I'm
great.
trying to,
That's
and
great.
even like talking to like my nieces of being like, so what do you think we should do though? Like instead of me just be
Yes.
like, do,
That's it.
what do you think we should do? Like tell me. And especially because that's a
Yes.
discipline that I'm not an artist. I can understand accessibility and colors, but I still get lost on the color wheel. I'm like, what goes with green? Oh yeah, think of Bugs Bunny, a carrot, orange. Orange goes with green. Like, I have the
Yeah.
thought process, and they're immediately like, oh, I know the tertiary colors that like go
That's
together, or
it.
I know like
That's it. Or
this
this
lighting is
palette.
gonna
I've made
make it
this
look
palette
weird.
in 2 seconds. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, what do you think we should do? And
Yeah.
but yeah, that's also me having been a client and my friend being an artist, and she's like, no, you need to say this is what you want to accomplish or give examples and things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It
I
there's a
don't know if
balance
that's
there. Yeah, there's a balance there. Like I'm thinking back to my experience with Sweet Baby, like there's a balance between asking and learning and kind of figuring out from learning from the studio that we're working with how they do things and what they want, and at the same time knowing when to suggest something different or push back on that idea for a certain reason. It's both. You like it's kind of crazy. Like you have to do both. And I think that's kind of the fun part because I then get to listen to, like, for example, all of the leads on a project, and sometimes they're clearly at odds with each other, and
Yeah.
they might not even realize that at the time.
Yeah.
They're getting frustrated though, and that's
Yeah.
kind of like the part where I'm like, okay, cool. What then that's the interesting kind of little square that we have to unpack or whatever talk about in
Yeah.
terms of like priority, need, what's the end goal, because they're usually aligned on a higher level. They usually want to get
Yeah.
to like the most fun or like the most meaningful thing that they could
Yeah.
create, and that's always going to be aligned. But how we get there is kind of how production works, I think. So
Do you think it's fair to say that as the producer, because everyone wants to get to the fun part, do you think it's fair that as a producer, you get everyone to that fun part? Like you kind of have to do the unfun
oh,
work of like,
sometimes, yeah.
yeah,
Sometimes, yeah. Sorry,
yeah,
everyone. And there's only 10 minutes in this meeting, so we got to get through. Yeah, like a little bit.
yeah.
And that sucks because like if
Sometimes people are flowing and
I want
do it.
everyone to have more time on their games.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
do want. Flip side, I just said that and I was like, Maria, I don't know about that. I was flip
Okay.
side. Sometimes it's actually better when there is a bit of pressure, and I think
Yeah,
that like knowing when to give more time or to give less time is also incredibly important. But games don't happen in a vacuum. There's budgets, there's deadlines, there's other external pressures and needs, and there's a release date in under all of this.
yeah.
So there is only so much time, and that is kind of the unfun thing, I would say. But it's an important part of game development. Yeah,
Let's get to the hot take, which is
yeah,
Sweet Baby
yeah.
Ink.
The whole just
Let's
that.
get to the hot take,
That's
right?
it. Yeah,
Because I didn't have one for today and I was like, oh, we usually have one, but it's you.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Like,
Oh
aside from
yeah.
the people that really believe in Gaming for the Culture podcast, and you're going to hear
Yes.
Junae
Yes.
and Maria talk, we have some people listening because they
Yes.
want some type of hot take.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it earlier, and I said I was going to mention it again
Yeah.
because there's been a lot that happened. Would you mind summing up in your own words of what's been happening? Is it a
Yeah.
year and a half now? I feel like
Yeah. Yes, it
I feel like it's
was.
2 years, but it's just a year and a half.
Yeah, it's a year and a
Okay.
half, is safe
Okay.
to say. I think I remember the weekend where it kind of started, and then the term "sweet baby" started trending on Twitter, on X, Twitter. And yeah, year and a half is, I think, is a good time estimate. I felt a little dumbfounded when it started. And it was just that we consulted on some, I think, major AAA games, God of War Ragnarok and Alan Wake 2 in particular. Um, and I think because the way the industry is set up, in part, we are not always allowed to talk about all of the details of whatever the heck we are asked to work on. And honestly, like from a personal standpoint, that kind of sucks. Like I do wish that we could share, the stuff that we work on and how we do it. I think like knowledge sharing is important, and I like transparency as a producer. So that's already a side of this where I'm like sad that that's not something that was able to happen or can happen. And so I think it turned into a bunch of people pulling different clips and pieces of media and sentences from GDC talks and information and gathering them and then creating uh, very quick, fast assumptions on a very small team. We're like pretty indie, whereas only like whatever 16 of us, I think, and then assuming, I think, the worst, honestly. And then us really not being able to correct it because it's not our games. We are consultants, and we will help do the writing, and we'll help do character outlines, we'll help do story reviews or reports, whatever the client needs. But at the end of the day, it's that client's game, and we want to work on whatever they need in order to improve their game. And I think we do that, like, I think and know we do that successfully because we're talking about really popular and games that I think a lot of people have enjoyed. Whether you're an indie or AAA fan, that doesn't, that's everyone, I think, has enjoyed a lot of the games. But I think the discourse um, that started and has just kind of like roller coastered all the way through goes beyond criticism, right? It goes into things that can't really be proven, and a conspiracy that's not true, and just a whole bunch of other things. And so, it resulted in, us speaking to media, Kim talking and kind of explaining things as much as she can, and then, you know at the end of all of that, a whole lot of harassment. Like, just straight up a whole lot of really, really terrible things said to either me or my colleagues who are also my friends. And just, after that, when you see co studio devs, or you see colleagues who you've gotten to know and you respect their work and you appreciate your day in day out work that you do with them, they try and say something to say, hey, I don't this is not how that's going. Sweet Baby doesn't make the rules. They suggest a lot of things, but they are not the final decision makers of any of this. Maybe don't do that. Then they get the dog pile of harassment and hate. And the hate and the harassment, I think, is a larger conversation, I think, even outside of games. But you just experience that amount of eyes and that amount of hate on you, and you have to really think about it, and you have to still keep working, and you still have to do the thing that you're doing because you think it's important and you think it's improving the games that you work on, like, genuinely. And so, yeah, I think that's the best way that I can sum it up. Yeah,
Yeah, you did a good job. You did a
thank
good job
you.
summing it up. The troll language that needs to be used here of what's going on is that
Yeah,
white men, cis white men, were not interested in the work that Sweet Baby Inc. put into for something that was already created. Like we talked about earlier, right?
that's
Like
right.
people come to you with them and
Yeah.
they were like, we just don't want to see minorities.
Yeah.
We don't want to see minorities. At the end of the day, they
Yeah.
don't want to see minorities, and
Yeah.
they don't have they don't have the ability to cancel someone who is like Remedy, or like an Ubisoft or something like that, and
That's
they
it.
really don't have the ability to cancel Sweet Baby Inc. either.
Yeah.
They thought because they could count on their fingers and toes how many people work at Sweet Baby Inc.
Yep.
that they could be like, you, and
You
like you
messed this
said,
up. Yep.
I think, it's really that's another piece of owning your own business. Is like, we didn't have PR set up for this. Like, this
No.
is not really our place to talk about it, but because our name is coming up, this is what we got to do. And I think that part sucks because you guys are not strangers to like harassment and like racism. Like, you're not oblivious that those things are
Yeah.
happening, and then also how much more in the gaming industry.
Yeah.
And so, to have to be doing this work for so long,
Yeah.
and then for some people to get stirred up, right, in like their
Yes.
private safe community spaces of their echo chambers, like for them to get
Yes.
stirred up enough to like then and to do this, I think is what's irritating. Because I was really excited when gamers started to work together to, like, the GameStop stocks, right? I was like, we have the
Yes.
power. I was
Yes.
really excited when we got them to change Sonic, like,
Yes.
with great power,
Yeah.
you
Well.
know what I mean? And so,
Well.
like, we have the buying power. We have influence, we have
Yes.
some say, we have authority.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, but like, I'm going to say it. At the end of the day, white men are going to white men. Like at the end of the day, they're like,
Hey,
yeah, but like
if
just to let you know who's in charge around here.
yeah.
Like, and I think,
Like,
I don't think it should.
I don't I've never known this, universe, but I think I could get the concept of having games where everybody looks like you and relates to you and has a lifestyle, and then that starts to change and you're going, "Whoa," like, you're going, "Whoa." I think I can understand maybe the shock or, like, the change can feel
Yeah.
weird. But as soon
Yeah.
as we go aggressive or we go rage or we go hate, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I don't
I
know
don't
what to
get it
do. I
anymore.
don't know what to do
Yeah.
with that. And we're
Yeah.
talking about all within the context of the world and how the world has worked
Yeah.
and how racism and classism and all
Yeah.
of those things have worked. That just exists in our world, whether we
Yeah.
like it or not.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I don't, I don't get that. I just
I
don't
don't
get
get
that
it.
part.
Isn't that crazy though? Like we can sympathize and be like, right, change is hard. I get it. You were used
Sure,
to you being Master Chief, and
sure,
now you're her in Horizon Zero Dawn. You don't have a choice,
sure.
or not
Like
even just playing.
welcome to my world a little bit, you know? Like
But like they never wanted to be us. Like they
right,
do with like the swaggy P points, but like
right.
they never wanted to experience like what we're going through. They never
Yeah,
want that. That's why.
yeah,
And it's the strategy, right? Because some of these people don't care. They just know it outrages other people. It's a strategy to be like
yeah.
reducing women to like what they're wearing and how they look in a video game.
Oh,
It's a
yeah.
strategy, like, to talk about that and to go on. And so unfortunately, we are going to continue to have this conversation because they're going to continue to do it because it gets clicks, it gets likes. The integrity of journalism, as a journalist, the integrity of journalism has gone down because of social media court and
Yes.
opinion and, being in your own echo chamber. Like, I have a
Yes.
friend who follows someone on X because they give them good news. And I
Yeah.
went there and I was like, oh, their content's mad cringy. And they're like, yeah, I don't agree. And I was like, yeah, I feel like I used to be that unbothered at some point. But in
Yeah.
this day and age where people are going through your followers, where
That's it.
people are going through your followers and looking and seeing what you did this, and they're not exactly like like a streamer or someone who
That's it.
chooses to be in the limelight. Like I don't even get to toe a line,
No.
right? Like I have to be like in line. I have to do this. I have to do that because not only so I could be like I am kinfolk, right? Like not
Yeah.
only so I could be like I'm kinfolk, but also to not lose out on opportunities. Like
Yes.
the documentary that I've been putting together for a long time, when I first asked people to like sponsor it and partner with me, and I told them that the first place I was going to was Europe. They're like, why not Africa?
Ooh. Hmm. Okay.
What do
What?
you mean?
What?
What do you
What?
mean? Tell me what you mean. Quickly, quickly, say it quick. Like, like, tell me what you mean quickly. Tell me what you mean quickly.
Podcast listeners are not going
Ta-
to see my face when I reacted to how that was. I don't even know what to say. I
Tell
don't
me
know what to say.
quickly. To hurry up and say it. Hurry up and ask me why you asked that. Because I wanted to do a documentary about black women all over the world in gaming, but
Yeah.
I already know them.
Yeah.
I already
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
I already know them. We could
You're
we could
right.
do a Zoom call. We could do a
Right.
free
That's it.
basic plan Zoom
That's it.
call of all the black women that are in
Yeah.
gaming in the world. I know them.
Airbnb hanging out. Like it's so easy. Like it's just
Literally.
like very
Easy.
easy.
It wouldn't even
Yeah.
need a landline.
Mm.
Somebody could call somebody. We could literally all three-way each other and be on the phone. And so I was
Yeah.
like, well, let me do women, right? I was like, let me go abroad. Like it would be really exciting. But as I find them, then obviously I can put black women in there, but like let's do
Yes.
all of them, like no matter like presenting or anything like that. Like if
Yeah.
they want to participate, they participated, because I got
Yes.
questions of like, well, I'm not exactly like women. And I was like, if you want to, you want to,
That's it.
I just wanted to let guys know that they can't, this is not
Well,
for, that's
it's
not an
just
invitation
the
for
it's
them.
just
Like,
disproportionate. It's still
yeah,
disproportionate,
yeah,
right? Like, yes, you'll find lots of game devs and people who've
yeah,
worked in games who are women or who are not men, at least,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
they've been here for a while, but the proportion and the like social all of the things that affect why that is in
yeah,
society is
yeah,
what you're trying to focus on. That's all.
yeah,
It's not to exclude
yeah.
anybody necessarily. It's
No,
just like
it's to include
it's
more.
that's it.
Like,
That's it.
and I had this conversation a while ago where I was talking to some of the like women of the fighting game community,
Mhm.
and we had a panel. And I was like, it's really cool that we have like women in fighting game, because like, fighting games are predominantly guys, but we do have some women that are doing really,
Oh
really
yeah.
good. And I was like, the thing is that once we start separating women, then we have to separate Black women, Latin women, Asian
Yeah.
women, and then we have to separate, like queer women, and then
Yeah.
like a different type, because maybe queer women aren't as comfortable with like, women who identify as like lesbian, or like, you know
Right.
what I mean? Then we have to keep going and going. And then, we're separating women with disabilities, because even though maybe
It's
they're LGBTQ
yeah.
plus, they're not okay with people with disabilities.
Yep.
And that's exhausting. While everyone should get that space for sure, it
100%.
is going to feel exclusive, and
Yeah.
so,
Yeah,
because it's
it's
unfortunate that we couldn't just stop like at women in gaming, right? It's
that's it.
unfortunate that we couldn't just do this, but we have to.
Like it's a I don't know, a super simple kind of way that I think about it or I try and remind myself is like if me and my best friend both got hurt, right? Like I got a big gash in my leg and my best friend broke her arm. Those two things are incredibly important to fix.
Yes.
Sometimes you can't put them together. We can't heal
Yeah.
those two things the same
But what
way.
if you like cut an artery, Maria? Like, what if
like
you?
yeah, it's still important. It's still we got to help you too. But like I can't I
Yeah.
physically can't talk about all three things at
Yeah.
once. So
Yeah. Yeah.
let me just start where I can start, you know?
Yeah.
We're all human at the end of the day with
At
so
the end
many
of the
resources.
day.
And so like it's kind of it's a very small example, but like it is kind of like that. There are so many issues and so many things that do need a space to be talked
Yeah.
about. Just let
I
us have
think we're
that space.
understanding because we're a minority.
Yeah,
Hypothetically speaking, if I was a cis white man,
right.
I'd be like, Maria, just like suck it up. Like, didn't it
Yeah,
give you Barbie Adventure? Like, you didn't
yeah,
like that?
yeah.
You know what
No,
I mean? Or be
yeah,
like, I mean, you can play on Halo, like everyone wearing a helmet.
yeah.
Like, I'm not an
You
old
don't
guy.
know.
I'm
Yeah,
not
you don't
Snake.
know who
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, literally. Like,
Well, except like the
and so
voices are kind of. It's fine. That's all
a
right.
woman can have a deep voice. I mean, I wouldn't talk to her and I'd make fun of her and call her a man,
Right.
but like
I'm
she could
like,
have a deep voice,
all right. We're getting
and
lost in the sauce now, dude. Come on, bring it back. Hold on.
but unfortunately we can follow their train of thought. And I
I
think
mean, it's
that's like,
goalpost moving, like goalpost moving
yeah,
101. I don't,
yeah.
I'm like, cool. I don't know what you're getting out of that because I'm tired and I think you're tired too.
Yeah.
Like, what are we
Yeah.
doing?
To do mental gymnastics every day, to
Mm-mm.
not to exclude somebody is
No,
madness.
no.
It's absolutely madness for me to wake up and be like, well, why would they? No, we shouldn't do that.
They don't deserve this at all. Like, just
And then go on
imagine.
Reddit to take other people's comments and like regurgitate them is madness to
It
me. Like,
could not be me. I'm sorry.
I would never work that hard for racism or, you know what I mean, like
No.
homophobia or like any
No.
type of ism or phobia. I couldn't work that hard. I'd be like, whatever, bro. Like, I'd be like, whatever, bro. If they want to come, let them come. Like,
Yeah.
just open the doors. Like,
Yeah.
I would be too exhausted. Like, but
And I
once
think,
again,
like, on top of
existing
that,
as a woman in a minority is already exhausting. So maybe they just don't
yeah.
have enough issues going
Yeah.
on.
I don't,
They got to
yeah.
create those issues.
Yeah. And I think, like, for me, the other thing that gets me down sometimes is like I do see friends, I do see people, just random people on the internet. I see influencers. I just existing both online and offline. I see how much positivity, like just genuine like happiness or joy, or being heard, or feeling like they've been seen and represented in media. Like, we know
Yeah.
how powerful that is. We all
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
especially gamers, like, it just we all know how nice it is to see yourself in a player in different
Yeah.
ways. And so you are telling people that they don't deserve ever to feel heard or seen
Yeah.
when you act that way. And that one, mind blowing to me, and
Yeah.
also really infuriating, because it's just something that, like, I've been playing games since I could. I don't know, since
Yeah.
my brain would let me to, literally. And I
Yeah.
really, really like them, and I don't want all of them to be one way. That's the whole point,
Yeah.
is I
Yeah. No,
want them to all be
that's
different,
why I
you
feel
know?
like indies are also dominating because it's
Right.
not just like one way. Like indies still have like
Yeah,
that heart in it. Not that triple A's don't. They be having good stories too. But when an
absolutely.
indie game is like, I really care about the environment. Let me show you that I've been thinking about this concept of how we interact with the the environment,
Yes.
or even the other hot take about the CEO of the United
Oh,
healthcare
yeah.
passing suddenly,
Yeah,
right?
yep.
And
That's a
people are like,
very,
"Oh,
yeah,
he played Among Us to learn how to be an assassin,"
I heard
and I
about
was
that.
like, "He probably wasn't good at it because Among Us is about getting away with stuff,
Well, I was
and
like,
they
have you seen
never
Among Us, though?
taught you
Like,
to
that's
be
not
an
gonna teach
assassin."
you.
Like,
It's not gonna
even if
teach
we're
you anything.
so, what you want to say is Assassin's Creed because his lineage is probably really close to Ezio Auditore. If we're gonna play these mental gymnastics, you have to know the story.
This is it. At least make the, I don't care if you've never played
That one
Assassin's
makes
Creed.
sense.
That one at
That
least
would
makes
make
sense.
sense. But just wait to
Among
like
Us? Have you seen
censor.
Among Us? Are we
They
talking
just
about the
didn't
same Among
know.
Us?
No, because I don't know who they were talking about. Ezio Auditore being among the other people, but
That's her. There we
I
go.
don't.
There we go.
They were confused.
It
They
was
both
a
had an
quick
A, and they were like, just pick one. We don't
It was a
know.
language
You
problem.
know.
That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just, it's okay. It's okay. People make mistakes. It's all good.
That's okay.
No
That's only their
worries.
journalistic integrity and duty because this was on NBC News and I used to write for NBC News. And like one day I posted the wrong giraffe in a photo gallery and I got an angry phone call. But no, you're just allowed to like
See,
not
now
do
here
your
we
due
yeah.
diligence.
Yeah.
Like,
That is both
yeah,
both tea and true. Like, that is just, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
She said what she had to say. Like, there's nothing else
Oh
to
my
it.
gosh. Yeah. I
Yeah.
like you said, being if it was up to them though, the reason why they are not liking the inclusivity, because if it was up to them, it would be erasure, and so they think that
Mm,
we would also want erasure, and some people do. Some
yeah.
people do.
It's
I
true.
don't.
They're
I
out
don't
there.
want you. I love Nathan Drake. Like what would I do without Uncharted? I love Nathan Drake. I love him. I
My
don't want erasure.
family is comes from completely different races and backgrounds. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we
You wouldn't
have
exist. They don't want
we
you to exist, Maria. That's what it
literally
is.
literally
They don't want you
like
to exist.
I see how, like, we all hang out, we enjoy each other's foods, we
Yeah.
talk about stuff, we argue like a normal family, we laugh like a normal family, like, it's like,
Yeah.
I personally, I don't understand, but
Yeah.
you know there was a thing that you said that I wanted to bring up,
Mhm.
which was, you know you're 100% right, right? There are people who want erasure, and there are people who do not want different, and that part I don't get. And then there's, like, I see every now and then in threads, like, a genuine critique, and I'm like, personally, I'm like, I can't tell you. Sometimes I agree with that real criticism, and I want to be clear. I don't agree with hate. I don't
Yeah.
agree with any sort of critique about, like,
Mhm.
this person being a race, or, like, whatever, right? Like,
Yeah.
when I'm talking about a genuine critique about, like, I didn't think this part was fun. You're allowed to think that, right? Or,
Yeah.
like, you're
Yeah.
allowed to say, like, "Oh man, you know what? When these two characters were talking, like, it just didn't pull me like I wanted it
Felt
to."
weird. Yeah.
That's okay, right? Like, I could
Yeah.
sometimes agree with that a lot of the time. That's I think, like, where I'd rather the discourse
Because that's
genuinely
critiquing the
be.
art, right? And
Right?
not necessarily the artist, which I don't believe in separating the art from the artist for y'all thinking about
Yeah.
singers and the people
Yeah.
who are genuinely like bad people and were low key telling
No,
on themselves
that's
through art because that's what it is. It's going to show your lifestyle,
yeah.
but like actually critiquing the art. Like I don't get a banana duct taped to a wall.
Yeah.
I don't
Yep.
want that person to never work again,
Yep.
and I don't want harm to come to that person, but like
Yep.
yeah, and I guess it has to be hard, right, to find those things because I know I like to get better at my job and I don't like but I like criticism. I'm like, yeah, so what do
Yes.
you think about that? So I could be like, dang, you know what? I didn't come with my A game on that. You're
Yes.
absolutely right. And that has
Yes.
to be hard because you're like, oh, sweet baby. And you're like, let me scroll through like 100 comments to finally get to somebody who actually played and
Yeah.
played it in
Well,
depth
that's
and
it.
was like, I understand and I did
That's it.
this and I did that. Cause like,
And, like, tell me
um,
why, right? Like, I'm a
yeah,
producer. I want to know why, or I want to know
yeah,
how, or I want to know, okay, this didn't land for like a bunch of people. Why would that be? Or et
yeah,
cetera, et cetera. We're about
yeah,
making games that are meaningful. But if the line is like, oh, because that person doesn't look like me or doesn't talk like, you
yeah,
know what I mean? Like, I'm like, well,
yeah.
comfort zone,
Once
comfort
again, that's
zone.
where that travel comes in,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Maybe,
it.
maybe if they would leave 10
That's
miles out of
it.
their zip code, in
I mean, yeah, like it's just
any
that's it.
direction, maybe they'd
And
be like,
the same
huh,
thing I think goes for like, if a game doesn't have enough intention around a plot point or a part of a world and you're
yeah,
like this doesn't feel as deep as
yeah,
I thought it was going to be, valid, right? Like I have those
yeah,
critiques about games as well. And I really, really appreciate when artists and developers make a world that's like RPGs, right? Like I love a lot of lore and I love a really well thought out world. That's partially why I'm
yeah,
here, is because
yeah,
that's my
yeah.
bread and butter. And so if that doesn't happen, that's real.
Yeah.
And that's more about intention and like resources and all the different variables that will change when a game is being made. And sometimes it's better to just do that critique than yell at a person who worked on the game, on the like hundreds of
But
people that
imagine the
worked on that game.
conversation, Maria. Imagine the conversation where people have played the game, right? We're already getting into fantastical realm.
Yeah.
So people have played the game and they're genuinely having a discourse. And Maria is like scrolling through Reddit and she's like,
Yeah.
"Huh, that's really interesting because actually that was my idea, but through changes, da 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 da." And then
Yeah.
they're having like this interaction with the person who actually made it.
Yeah.
But now it's like I'll never go on Reddit again. Well, I'm not
Yep.
saying that, but it's
Yeah.
you're like, no wait, yeah.
No, no, like I mean,
Yeah.
I kid you not, I do surface with Reddit via friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's kind of because of this year. Like I just
Yeah.
it's I'm like I need to touch grass a little bit
Yeah.
sometimes.
I entered the industry at Gamergate and I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
this is what they were talking about." Cuz
Yeah.
when I entered it, I didn't know initially and
Mhm.
then I was like, "Why is everybody tripping?" Right? Like
Mhm.
it was happening the same time that I entered and so
Mhm.
I didn't know and so like and once again, funny that like Alan Wake was like,
Yeah.
in Remedy because I was in Finland. And when I
Yeah.
tell you it was not that same energy, but then again, I wasn't really online in like
Right.
Finnish like territory at that. And so it's like I was removed from it because I wasn't really like I wasn't
Well,
getting a bunch of online stuff from the
yeah,
US and I wasn't because a lot of the Finnish stuff was in
that makes
Finnish. And so I would
sense.
probably have to like
You'd have to
translate. And
search
I was
for it. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and I was already kind of doing my own thing, so I didn't stumble across like anybody talking about it in this way. And so I was like, dang. I was like, this just sounds like really big, like when some of the other news came out about some of the other companies and like how their culture
Yes.
was, I was like, that sounds doable. I was like, like some things
Yes.
don't sound so big for their britches. I was like,
Yes.
that can very much happen because in these small spaces I've experienced this. But sometimes people
Yes.
take it too far.
Yes.
People do that. And so
Well,
when I
I
was
mean,
like, they ruined, and I was like, all six of them,
yeah.
all six of them, like
Yep.
they just ruined this whole thing for you. You didn't even know they existed,
Yeah.
and then they did this. So
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's true. And I think that that goes back to like my focus on emotions and empathy as a producer as well, right? Like there at a certain point the way you feel, you're allowed to feel the way you feel, but you got to dissect why, and then you have to figure out what you're going to do with that. And those people online are
Yeah.
adults. They get to do what they
They are.
want. Unfortunately, sometimes.
Yeah.
And
They
so
they need a little help, you know?
yeah.
They
Oh
needed a
yeah.
little support in the other direction, but yeah.
Yes. But like equally, like a great example on a personal level is like I love the Dragon Age series.
Mhm.
And I specifically really enjoy Dragon Age Inquisition. I know a little about the first games, and I am an RPG gamer who once I loved Dragon Age Inquisition, it's like an 80-hour game minimum.
Oh,
And
wow.
I played
That's
that.
not so bad.
I
That's actually
played
not
It's not
bad.
bad. It's not yeah, there
Yeah.
you go, right? Like I think 100 hours is about how I got from start to
You're pushing
finish.
it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's pushing it.
But
That 20 hours was pushing it.
I played that 2 to 3 times over in
Oh,
different
wow.
ways because there's a lot of
Yeah.
replayability there and, like, just learn
But
like,
I love a replayability. You know,
it's
I
great.
feel like you don't
Yeah,
get that often, right? And
yeah.
also, once you play that 80 to 100 hours the first time, even though you're doing something different, you're not gonna exactly like like it's not gonna take you that long.
Well, there's lots of different paths where you're like, "Oh, uh, I could go either way with this answer." And then that's how you know, "Okay, well, I'll go this way first time, and I'm gonna go deal with
Mhm.
that and experience that later." And that's just really exciting for me. Um,
Yeah.
but I feel like, with the new one that came out, there was a lot of discourse around it. A lot of people hated it. For a lot of
Yeah.
and I think some valid criticisms, right? A lot of people like it. And I'm
Yeah.
kind of stuck in like, well, I had strong emotions about this. I came
Yeah.
from Inquisition and there's a lot of ways it has changed. And I don't like that. I don't like change sometimes. And that's where I'm like, I get it. I
Yeah.
don't like change sometimes. Change can be like really frustrating.
Yeah.
But then I think about like, okay, well, one, I really appreciate the devs I know how much hard work they put into that. And I'm like, I still, because I'm a fan of this franchise, I want to give it a try. I want to play it through.
Yeah.
And my criticisms or like whatever I feel about different parts of the game, totally valid. I'm not directing that to anybody. That's
Yeah.
crazy, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's just, you don't
Yeah.
do that.
You're like,
And
for me, it could have been like this, but you
that's
don't
it.
know what's best for everybody because you're not a dictator.
That's it. And like,
Naturally.
if I really feel strongly, maybe I'll write a review, maybe, or maybe I'll say my
Yeah.
piece online, sure. But
But
like,
even then, it wouldn't be like, "This was terrible." You'd be like, "Wow, well, maybe this was great that we could have it was really great,
that's it.
but this is the part that I really
Or
like," you know?
like I at least acknowledge my bias that I'm
Yeah.
like comparing from
Yeah.
Inquisition. Maybe they wanted to do
Yeah.
something different and that's their intention. Like,
'Cause God of
that's
War did
fine.
that, and that threw me for a loop.
That's
That really
it.
threw me for a loop because I was like, "Hold
That's
on,
it.
what do you mean, like, the quick
That's
time
it.
event, but I also have to put on armor,
What do you
and I can't
Yeah,
just
this
pick
is
the one
a
that looks
different
nicest?"
game.
Like, yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
And then sometimes you got to trust what the devs were cooking, and then
yeah,
sometimes like it's okay to have feelings about
yeah.
it?
You
But
might have
like
aged out of it too. There's so many new gamers and
that's
so
it.
many new people coming on that are
That's it.
I always think about that, and then we're gonna wrap this up. I always think
Yeah.
about like how adults made cartoons and that we thought they were funny, you know, and
Yes.
so that's why a lot of like 60s, 70s, and 80s things were placed into our cartoons because they were making them. So we knew about like, you know,
Yes.
70s and 80s a lot. And then I
Yes.
kind of hurt a little bit because now that people who are my age are making content, they're not putting like a lot of 2000s in there. We're putting 70s and
That's it.
80s stuff in there because like how else are you explaining like Stranger Things, like,
That's it.
you know,
No,
with
that's
that
it.
constantly like being you know,
Yeah.
like being a thing. But
Yeah. And like
yeah.
Stranger Things is a great example where like some of my older family members just not vibing with it. I
Yeah.
love Stranger Things.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
makes sense why that's different, right? And
Yeah.
like it doesn't mean that they like think the whatever is bad or this person
Yeah.
deserves XYZ, right? Like
Yeah.
that is, I think, the
To get
fundamental
eaten by a
difference, right?
Demogorgon. They
Like
don't want that. They just don't want to watch it. Like,
like just that's okay, you
imagine
know?
banning everybody to a dungeon every time you didn't like something and they also liked it. Like, I thought about it because I went to a concert before and I was like,
Yeah.
I probably don't even like the people that are in here, but we like a common thing. I wasn't being cynical. It was just like, you meet a concert buddy and you're like, wow. And you're like, yeah, but for every one person, there's probably like three people you don't like. Like,
That's
you
and
guys
that's
just like this one thing.
it's fine, man. You can still be friendly with them. It's all right.
Maria,
Say hi
counseling the
to your
people. Yeah.
neighbors. Bring your dog to
Yeah.
your neighbor, and
Absolutely.
eventually they'll say hi back, and
Mhm.
that's important.
That's proven. I want to submit that to a scientific journal because I've done the
Put it on your
research
shirt.
and the
Yeah, I don't know.
experiment. So I want to get published. I want my credit, you know? This has been great. This is going to be a very great first episode. Like, I just decided that this was the first
Oh,
episode.
I feel
So
honored now. Oh, I'm nervous now.
because I mean, why not open with a premiere? Like, because we just talk like 2 hours, like
Yeah,
at
yeah,
minimum, we just talked
yeah,
for like 2 hours. So I think that people should enjoy this as a first episode.
yeah.
So thanks you guys for staying until this far. Maria, you got anything you want to say to the people?
Oh my
Do you
god.
want them to find you?
Yeah.
Should I ask people about their socials? Like, or if you want to say anything, or can you give us any clues on like what you're coming up with next? Have anything exclusive that you
Yeah.
can share?
Yeah, nothing super exclusive,
Okay.
unfortunately. We're still working hard on Usual June, and that is the thing that's kind of like front and center for me right now.
Ah, okay. Are you
And
excited about it? Like, is this
oh
something
yeah.
you'd play, or is this a part of the thing where you would like to have a parasocial relationship?
You know what? No, it is 100%. I think same with Alan Wake 2.
Mhm.
And I think producers maybe get this special perk because you're not like in a specific dev thing.
Yeah.
I do want to play almost all of the games that
Do
I've
you
worked
get
on.
all the games that you work on? Like, do they,
I How do you
as an
mean get a
appreciation, do they just like
Oh,
give
oh
you
yeah,
some?
yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
amazing. And you've played
Sometimes
every one?
no. No.
Oh,
No, no,
okay,
no, no,
okay.
no. No.
I was like, wow,
I
you're really in it.
I get
Full
yeah.
time.
I think I get all of them, or I try to, or I at least
Yeah.
put them on a list so that I can
Yeah.
wish list them and get them later.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Usual June is I think the main thing. I
Yeah.
am so excited for when the game comes out because I want to play it
Yeah.
myself 100%. I want to run around in that game. And aside from that, I just really appreciate y'all listening to me. I don't know. Get I got a little angry, I think. I got a little angry at the whole situation, but I really appreciate just being here and talking to you. It's good.
I appreciate you talking about it. And
Yeah.
really quickly, before the camera even started rolling, we were just talking about being from a Caribbean culture
Yes.
and not being able to be upset, and then also feeling like you can't be upset online too. So I wanted to mention that. I wanted to give that an honorable mention because I think
Yeah.
that's really important. And you got you, and I know everyone will congratulate you for you not reacting, but I also think that's being a pushover. And so even if you did show emotion, this is your craft, this is your job, this is
Yeah.
something you've invested time in, they've invested in you.
Yeah.
You're allowed to be like, man, y'all are crazy. Not doxing people, of course. We have to
No.
we have to draw a limit because you don't want to be just as bad as them, but to
No.
be passionate about it does not
There's a way to
render.
express, I think, anger that conveys how you've been impacted
Yeah.
and communicates like, okay, here's what we got to do next while still being respectful. Like,
Yeah.
like their emotions are there for a reason and
Yeah.
they
They
are the
set
way we
boundaries.
communicate. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
part of
You're
communication.
like,
They're
oh,
important.
something's wrong. I was thinking about that when you're saying that
That's
sometimes
it.
people clash, and I was like, they're getting frustrated because they know that there's a pin that's just not
That's it.
connecting.
That's it.
Yeah,
But we can still all be respectful to each other. That's the main thing. So, you know, thank you.
I
Thank
get
you.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, people if
Yeah.
people do find me online, you can absolutely follow me and message me. I'm really bad at checking my messages, but I am friendly when I'm there. So
Maybe
I
if you
don't.
could find Maria in Baldur's Gate, she might be a bit more receptive to
Yeah.
you, you know?
Opposite, I'm pretty chaotic in Baldur's Gate. Good luck with
Okay.
that. I don't know.
There we go. Right. Yeah. Thanks so much for joining. And it was really, really great talking to you. I always have so much fun, like
Yeah.
talking to all my guests, because these are the people that I want to talk to, right? Like you've been in the industry, and if you want to, you could have a chip on your shoulder because you've accomplished so much. But it's
Thank you.
very wonderful. It's a very wonderful to talk to you. And
Yeah.
this concludes this episode of Gaming for the Culture Season 3. I have yet to name any of my seasons, so there's just one, two, and three. But if I come up with a name, you'll know at some point. But currently, right now, it's just season 3 of Gaming for the Culture. And if you would like to ask any of my guest questions, please subscribe to my Patreon. It's Patreon Junae Benne. Once again, Patreon Junae Benne. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, obey. But I love Borderlands, so I'm always going to tell you to subscribe, subscribe, and obey. But thank you once again. I have been your hostess, Janae, and until next time, game safely, be kind, wash your hands and your butt and your feet.
Yeah.
Just wash
The whole
in
thing.
general. The
All of
whole
it.
thing. Just don't be stingy. Don't be stingy with it. But all right, catch you guys next time. Okay, what's your computer at now?
2%. We did it. Great job. Great job. I'm
Woohoo!
so I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. You're out and about. Who knew? I'm glad I did this before I started traveling too, but it was
Yeah.
like who knew? Because I'm gonna have to use my computer,
Yeah.
my Mac next time, and I
You
don't
gotta
I don't
make
think
sure
that
you're
has a
set up.
great
Yeah.
video. So yeah, I think what I'm gonna do is
I'm gonna run downstairs. I'm gonna move myself to another desk with the charger, and I'll stay on the call. I'll just stay here. Be a hot second.
sounds good.